This is gonna have to be this video is gonna have to be under a half hour. I gotta clean out my phone. But man, there's so much going on that I want to make videos about. Apparently, they're bringing the draft back. I gotta make a video about that because I got a lot to say about it. But this is I gotta just talk about what's on my mind. Otherwise, the videos don't come out right. So someone tried to steal from me recently, and this is the first time anyone's tried to steal from me in a long time since I was living on the street in New York. And one of my problems is I'm kind of dumb about things. I assume nobody's going to try to steal from me. First of all, I don't look like the type who's going to not take revenge. You know what I mean? I look like the type who's going to take revenge. So you would think, but the type of people who steal from other people are usually not, they're usually not very bright. And that was the case with this dude. So, I have to go to the gym to take a shower. So I usually don't bother locking, putting a lock on the locker because I'm only going to be in the shower for like 20 minutes. On top of that, there's just nothing to really steal except my dirty clothes. You know what I mean? So I take my wallet and my phone. I put them in my backpack, which is hanging right outside the shower. If anyone touches that, I'm gonna notice it. I hope, but I don't leave anything valuable in the locker. But really, I should start putting a lock on the locker. That's kind of a dumb thing to do. So, anyways, I go to the gym yesterday to take my shower, and I go in the locker room, and right behind me, this like, I'm in Clearwater where it, I'm in like not the nicest part of Clearwater. So there's some actual gangsters around, but there's a lot more like wannabe gangsters around. You know what I mean? It's like I guess it's not just a Florida thing. They're everywhere. They're like just young dudes who want to be like gangsters. You know what I mean? And I could tell this was one of them. It was like a white dude with like a reddish kind of afro hairdo and like a tracksuit on him. Like I wasn't thinking much of the kid. I just barely paid attention to him. But he comes in the locker right behind me, and it didn't even occur to me. He's probably going to notice that I didn't put a lock on the locker anyways. Now, I don't know for sure it was him, but, when something, here's, when something makes sense logically, it's probably the truth. Anyways, so I put my stuff in the locker. I take my shower. I come out and I bought a cigarette case recently, that's this. So I just keep, I keep I roll my own cigarettes. So if I'm going out, I don't want to put them in like a regular pack, but I just prefer to have like a nice cigarette case. Anyways, that's the only thing that was in my shorts in my locker. When I come out of the shower and I go in there, my cigarette case is out of the pocket and just stuffed like in the middle of the shorts as if someone was like in a rush going through my stuff looking for something to steal and then very quickly put everything back and left. So, I've been going to this gym to take a shower for about a year and I just who else would do that? And there's been plenty of other times where people have seen that I didn't put a lock on the locker, and everything was everything was fine. But here's how dumb the kid is. It's like me and him were the only ones in the locker room, and well, I can tell you one thing. When I came out of there, I put two and two together real quick, and I was looking for him in the gym because I was going to confront him and look him in his eyes and decide for myself. But he was gone. So he came into the gym right when I did. So who goes to the gym and then leaves within 20 minutes besides me, who's only there to take a shower? I don't work out at the gym. I work out with my own body weight with push-ups and crunches and curls, and I use some external weights, but not much. But so, the dude was gone, and I was real angry. I was, it was gonna get ugly if I ran into him after that. I can tell you that much because but here's the other thing. I was thinking to myself, why are you so angry? Why are you thinking so like violently? Like I wanted to knock him the fuck out. To be honest, that was kind of my plan when I was, you know, on the lookout for him. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm riding my bike back home, and I was real mad, bro. I'm like looking for this head of red hair everywhere on my way home. That I figured I wasn't going to see him, but just in case. And I was really, really enraged. And as time went on, I was thinking to myself, like, why are you so angry? First of all, I know from experience through losing everything I own more than once that nothing is that hard to replace. The hardest things to replace would have been like my ID, um, my bank debit card. I would have just called and canceled that. My phone. I mean, my phone. I would have just bought another phone. You know what I mean? So it's like, why was I so angry? It's like, well, here's the thing with me too. I'm old enough to know that my anger does not come from a position of strength. It comes from a position of weakness. It comes from a position of fear. The only time I get truly angry and potentially violent is when I'm afraid. So I'm like, what? Why does this scare me so much? And the other thing that kind of bothered me about it is on my Patreon, I'm kind of always preaching this non-violence message. And then here I am, the instant something, poses just the teeniest amount of threat to me, I'm like ready to beat the shit out of this kid. And you know, that was my intention, when I left that locker room. And to be honest, if I see this kid, there's gonna be an issue, I mean, um, but I'm on Patreon like preaching this non-violence thing, and it's very hypocritical for me to talk one way and be another way, So I still preach nonviolence. I am against violence, but I do believe in standing up for yourself and defending yourself. But here's the other thing with the anger, you know. Um, I guarantee you, had I ran into that kid and beat him up or whatever, I would have regretted it and I would have felt bad about it. You know what I mean? I know that. I logically I know that just from experiences in the past of my anger getting the best of me, and then for the rest of my life I regret it. Like, I it's you just once you release all the rage, you realize like it doesn't even matter. And it didn't change anything. It just put this negative memory in my brain of me acting like a lunatic, and then I got to live with that for the rest of my life. So, you know, um, so I was really wishing to run into him, but now, in retrospect, I'm hoping I don't run into him. And if I do run into him, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? I'm probably going to confront him. I'm going to be like, um, you know, did you try to steal my shit or something? And just see how he reacts and see the look on his face. But honestly, I'm really not that angry anymore about it. I probably won't just be throwing hands at this kid. um, but it does still make me a little angry. It's just, it's a leftover from when I was living on the street, and if you have like when you're living on the street and you're around street people, you cannot have a reputation for not standing up for yourself, because if you have that rep, you're just going to be a target. Well, here's the other thing with these people who steal. They're like, in my opinion, they're the lowest of the low. Like, I don't like anyone who robs or steals, but I can at least respect the nerve of someone who goes up and just tries to do it right in your face. You know what I mean? The people who sneak around trying to steal from the shadows, I just it's a rat thing to do. The only thieves I respect at all are like high-end cat burglars who go into museums and steal like priceless works of art and shit like that. That I can respect because that's in my opinion that's a very skilled, impressive thing to pull off. People really do this. They go and they steal these fucking $1 million paintings. There's a whole black market for it. Like these super duper uber rich people, they want a Picasso. They don't give a fuck where it came from. So, there's a market for it. So it's in my opinion that's it. I don't agree with stealing and shit, but that's somewhat respect worthy because it requires a lot of skill and a lot of intelligence, and that's some ninja shit that you like the way they pull it off. I can respect it, but other than that, a thief, you know, um, to be stealing from people who work for what they have, and you're just, you know, you're doing nothing with yourself and just trying to steal their possessions. I can't. I really can't stand people like that. But it's like it's like a societal issue though, because there's a lot of people stealing in our society. Some are doing it white collar. Our government is basically, they're coercing us out of our money in a lot of slick ways where you don't even realize all you guys are funding foreign wars with your tax money. We all are. Where we are paying for the bombs that are killing people on the other side of the world, which is wrong. We should not be doing that, but we're doing it without our consent. We don't realize it. But yeah, a lot of that money that you're paying in taxes is going towards killing people on the other side of the world. And a lot of it is just going towards corruption and it's going towards a whole lot of evil shit. Now, in my opinion, we are at somewhat at blame for that. We are not innocent in that. Even though it's happening without our consent and kind of behind our backs, it's happening nonetheless, and we are funding these criminals. So, that's just one example. Then you got like the whole white collar criminal people. You got people like Jordan Belfort, who was calling up, working class people in the Midwest and swindling them. That's the dude from the Wolf of Wall Street, and telling them, you know, selling them a bunch of bullshit stocks that were worth nothing and taking people's life savings and shit. I know he says he was only stealing from rich people, but I don't really believe that because most rich people are not they know better. They're not gonna, they would have known he was trying to sell them crappy stocks, but regular working class people who don't pay attention to stocks, they got some hotshot New Yorker on the phone giving them, you know, feeding them a bunch of bullshit lies about stocks, which they know nothing about. That's so. I know Jordan Belfort's a great salesman, um, and I find him entertaining, and I think he's got some great advice when it comes to sales. But let's be honest, he's a thief in a lot of ways. He stole a lot of people's money. I don't think he. I don't. I, I'm not sure if he paid it all back. So there's another example of like, thievery, stealing is stealing, and it's a societal issue. Here's the thing: we all hate the government, and we think they're the problem. And don't get me wrong, they're a big part of the problem, but a bigger part of the problem is us, just our society in general. We're doing the same shit they're doing. A lot of us are. This kid trying to steal from me was he's not any worse than the government itself, or Jordan Belfort, or any other slick salesman swindling people out of their money. And I've done it myself. I've had sales jobs where, you know, I've told this story in previous videos where I've had these telemarketing jobs where I just I quit the job because I felt like it was just dishonest money. They expected me to swindle people out of their money. Not just that, I wasn't good at it. When I'm lying and I know I'm lying, I'm not a good salesman. But you give me something that I believe in, something worth selling, and I'll fucking sell it to anyone, no problem. I'll get it sold. But I can't claim to say that I've never swindled someone out of their money. I have. At that job where I was selling the gas, I was doing it, but it felt so shitty to me. That's why I quit the job. That's why I kind of stopped doing it. But you know, there were times where I did do it to people, and I put them on a shitty deal where they're gonna lose the money, and my bosses are gonna get that money, and they're gonna pay me hourly. And so, I'm not claiming to be some innocent little angel. I'm guilty of it myself. I just did it a lot less, and I quit the job pretty quickly before, I knew what I was doing was wrong. But when I moved back to New York and I had to get that telemarketing job because I needed a job, I needed money. I was staying at my uncle's house. I needed to go get an apartment. So I got a job with Frank, who ended up getting deported back to Italy because he was doing a lot of illegal shit. I'm not going to get into it. Maybe one day I'll tell the story of Frank. But Frank was so charismatic. Even though I knew he was a thief, I liked him a lot. You know what I mean? That's how charismatic Frank was. I knew he was full of shit, but I just liked him. The other thing is Frank liked me. When someone likes you, it's hard to not like them based on some character flaws. And the other thing is Frank comes from poverty, and you know, so and I'm not making excuses for Frank. What Frank did was very wrong. What Frank ended up doing, what got him deported, was so the job. it's such a it was such a foul job, and I kept the job for like a year. So I'm like I said, I'm guilty of it myself. Anyways, our job was it was there's these business networking books called like the Who's Who, and so um, there's a couple of legit versions of it. Like there's I forget the names of these ones, but Frank used to work for like the super legit one in the financial district in Manhattan, where it's this business networking book. It's called the Who's Who or whatever, and um, this this company they only put people in the book who are at like the top of their um, industry. So then they get a copy of the book, so they have access to all the best in every industry. That's the idea behind the book. And the one is legit. They don't just give it to everyone. You have to. They basically recruit you into it. And it's kind of an honor to be in it. And but it does cost money. They don't just give it to you for free. They offer it to you. If you don't want it, then you don't want it. You're not going to be in the book. But if you do want it, you're going to have to give them like $1,000 or something. But here's the thing: these people are all like uber rich, and for them, it's worth dumping $1,000 to have access to all the best people in all the best industries. So the one Frank was working for, that's not hard to sell because it's actually to these people, it's worth. They don't. $1,000 is nothing to the people they're calling up. And they're genuinely not just offering it to everyone. They're only offering it to certain people. And so Frankie used to make a lot of money working for them. He made so much money working for them that he made enough money to start his own Who's Who. Now, we were not working on Wall Street. We were working out of Valley Stream, Long Island. Um, and we were calling up everyone and feeding them this bullshit as if we were the legit one, and it would cost them $1,000 to get in. But now here's the difference: these people are not super duper rich; they are just regular working class people. So this is what we were doing at that job. I'm not proud of it. I sold a bunch of people on it, but I didn't like it. I didn't like doing it, but I had to do it because I couldn't. I was trying to avoid being homeless. You know what I mean? But I can tell you this much: after working there for about 4 or 5 months, I Here's the thing, I never really believed it was fully legit, but once I saw who Frank put in charge of the book, and once I saw the book, and I was thinking to myself, this is not worth $5. The book is just thrown together. It's, you know, it, they would just, there's no order to it. It's just a hardcover book full of everyone they sold this bullshit to. It's not categorized. It's not organized. I was like, this is fucking useless. It looks nice. It's printed on nice paper. It looks like a nice hardcover book, but it's useless because it's like if you want to look someone up in an industry, you couldn't do that in this book. It's just randomly everyone they sold just thrown into this book. You know what I mean? So I realized pretty early on, like this is what I started doing to save my own self-respect, I guess you could say. I stopped selling to people on the $1,000 deal, and I would sell them on the $100 one because I wanted to get enough sales for Frank to keep me working, but I didn't want to screw these people out of all their money. So I would sell them on the lowest tier of it, where they would get the book and they would have access to all the people, which was useless anyway. It's just all the people that bought the nonsense. And I would write them a bio, and I would write the bio good. Here's the other problem. Frank would have the salesman write the bios themselves, which these guys are not writers. I'm a decent writer, but it's a talent that I have. So, um, I would write them like a legit bio. I would hype them up. I'd make them look good, and basically I felt like I was for $100. I was giving them something that was somewhat worth some money. I was writing them a fucking good bio, so I didn't feel so bad selling it to them. But after a while, I was like, fuck this shit, and I just kind of waited around until Frank fired me so I could get unemployment, and then I ended up on the street anyway. So, but yeah, the point of this video is the thievery and the dishonesty is I really have no right to be getting all enraged at anyone over it because I'm guilty of it myself. And then the other thing is, I used to read all these Zen Buddhism books, and all right, this video I've got to wrap it up because we're almost at my time limit. Um, and I was reading these books when I was kind of too young to really understand them. But anyways, this one little Zen story was like, um, there was a monk who lived in a shack, and he came home one evening, and his shack had been broken into, and all his possessions were stolen. And he didn't even really give a shit. And the next day, I guess his friend came by, and he was like, "What happened?" And the monk said, "Everything was stolen from me." And the guy was like, "Oh man, that's terrible." And the monk was like, "Well, no, not really, because he left the real treasure, which was the moon in the window." And so the monk was saying basically like, or he said something like, "I wish I could have gave him the real treasure, which was the moon in the window," or something like that. Basically, what he was saying was, he really, this thief didn't hurt him. He hurt himself. He ended up, you know, karmically, he's gonna have to pay for what he did. And the monk didn't even give a shit about his possessions. And the monk was feeling like, I wish I could have helped this guy to realize that he's on the wrong path and what he's doing is wrong, and he's only hurting himself, really, is kind of the moral of the story. Another quick little Zen story I was reading, there was this school of monks, and there was one student who he would always steal food, he would always steal from the other people. He was just a terrible monk student, and all the other students hated him. They couldn't stand him, and you know, they would get upset because the monk leader, the teacher, the sensei, would always accept him. Instead of kicking him out of the school, he would let him stay and continue to behave badly. And all the other students were like sick of it. They couldn't stand the guy. And so finally, got caught stealing again, and the students all got together and they went to the teacher and they said, "Look, we've had enough of this guy. If you don't kick him out, we're all going to leave." And the teacher said, "Well, if that's the way it's got to be, then that's the way it's got to be." They're like, "Why would you let us all leave when we're all good monks and you keep the one bad monk?" They're like, "Well, how does that make sense?" And the teacher said, basically, that bad monk needs me a lot more than the rest of you do. So, he needs my teaching the most. If I'm going to let anyone go, you guys are, you'll be all right out there. He won't. He's like, I've got to teach this guy. Somebody's got to teach him. You know what I mean? What's going to end up happening to him out there? He's going to end up getting himself killed or something. So he's like, this guy needs me more than you guys do. So, um, if I'm going to have one student, it's going to be him. And, you know, and then the dude's like, apologizing and this and that, but probably never learn, just like a lot of other people don't ever learn. They just continue to, you know, plow ahead in their ignorance, doing stupid things. And you can't force anyone to learn anything. That's one thing I've learned over my lifetime. You cannot force people, even if you're trying to do it. You're trying to do it for their own good. Anyways, I guess I'll try to get that draft video out maybe within the next couple of days because I got a lot to say about that. Anyways, appreciate every single one of y'all. Thanks for the subs. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the tips. Thanks for the Patreons, especially. And if you want a response, try to get your comment within the first hour of the video being out. I still respond to comments randomly throughout the following days, but um, your best odds of getting a response is early on. Anyways, appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next one. Everybody have a good one.